And we are live.
Ah,
Kind of
hey,
live.
what's going on with this monitor?
That's not plugged
We're
in.
using this one instead.
Yeah.
Oh, because okay, computer.
Yeah, so this is going to be
Okay.
more real time. There it goes.
Ooh, dark screen.
Well, I don't know what to tell you.
Happy
You're being too
Thursday.
picky already. Holy.
Happy Thursday, everyone.
Happy Thursday.
Almost Friday. Almost the weekend. We're live streaming on Thursday because I know a lot of you know that we have theater events all throughout this month. So Paul's painting that he will be teaching should be next Thursday. I need to double check the calendar, but I will
Sorry.
let everyone know.
I'm like grabbing the iPad. So we've got Marlene is in the house.
Hey, Marlene.
And Faith is in the house.
Faith, nice to see you. I saw that you got home from work in time, so that's great.
We're kind of operating different equipment tonight just because
Let's go ahead and zoom in on the painting and we'll talk about it.
I'm on death's door, you guys. So
Paul has a cold right now. If you can't tell, he's going to be snorkeling and sneezing.
If
and
it gets
God
really
knows
bad,
what else.
I'll just turn my mic off. But
okay, so let me know if this looks blurry to you because it looks a little bit blurry to me on my screen. Like my brushes are slightly out of focus.
Well, how does it look on here?
Let's see. I think it looks okay. Yeah, maybe it's just that screen. So
Everything looks blurry.
Let
to
us
me,
know
so.
if it appears slightly blurry because that's something we can adjust. So this is, we called it Spring Falls, but it is actually Multnomah Falls in Oregon. And it's in the Oregon Gorge right along the Columbia River. Beautiful spot. Mine is definitely a little more neat than it looks in person. In person, it's pretty wild and rogue.
Yeah.
And that's not always the easiest thing to capture on canvas. Paul does a really good job of it.
So I decided since you're going homegrown this week, I'm going to go homegrown next week. And I'm either going to do Crater Lake or Haystack Rock, and I want people to tell us what they want.
Okay, yeah. I guess we're doing Oregon.
Oregon.
Oregon paintings.
Get.
It drives me crazy when I hear people pronounce it that way. It's not Oregon, it's Oregon.
I wonder why that one monitor's so fuzzy looking.
I know. But anyway, so yes, Multnomah Falls, it is super tall and super amazing. I was an artist in residence at Skamania Lodge in Washington. I had to, for almost a decade, I was 9 years, and I had to drive by Multnomah Falls several times a month because we did a lot of parties up there at the lodge. And so I got to see it seasonally. I've seen it when it's all frozen over. I've seen it when it's spring, when it's fall, when it's summer. It's just beautiful at all times. Sometimes if we've had a lot of rain, it'll be gushing, and it's always a lot of water coming down. It's never going to be just a trickle.
And there'll be times like at sunset sometimes where the sunlight just hits it just right so it looks like flames.
Yeah. So, but one thing is, this is very tall, this backdrop, and it's actually pretty flat, like it looks in the painting. There's a lot more moss and stuff growing on back there, but we didn't want to take away from the greenery here because this could all disappear if we put green back here too. So it's going to be mostly a grayish with some of that turquoise color in there. And this really dips down. It's very bowl-shaped just from years and years of this upper fall carving into the landscape.
So just so you know, the upper fall,
Mm-hmm.
point to the upper fall, Jenny, is 542 feet.
Big.
And the lower fall is 69 feet. So the total between the two is 620
I didn't realize this one was so tall.
Yeah.
So it goes a lot further down, and it kind of spreads out a little bit into a little pool. It is absolutely gorgeous. You can do a hike. You can go across this bridge, and then you go up all the way up to a place called Angel's Rest.
No, that's a different hike.
I thought we did Angel's Rest where we went across the bridge.
No, that's a different hike.
Okay.
But it's close.
Okay.
Close
that
to
was a long time ago. That was like 15 years ago. Okay, so let's
how long ago?
I'll set this aside here. And on my palette, I have Bahama Blue, but if you don't have that, I tested it earlier today. You can mix white, a little bit of whatever blue you have, whether it's cobalt or phthalo or whatever, and just a little bit of yellow, but it's going to be a lot of white. And you can come up with a color that's very close to this. It might be maybe a little more minty or maybe a little more grayish, and that's totally fine. It's not going to like alter the whole vibe of this painting at all. So don't worry.
Since it's the sky, honestly, just blue and white would be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
In fact, I might do that just so we can see the difference.
Okay. Okay. So we have 6 colors. We have black, white, phthalo blue. I have phthalo red. You could use your regular ruby red or whatever red you have in your pack. Probably a blue-based red would be good because we're just making pink out of it. Yellow, and then the Bahama Blue. So, and then we have our 4 brushes. Let's take our biggest brush to start. Go ahead and dip it in your water cup. Loosen up the bristles. So let's do a toast, Paul. Cheers to Multnomah Falls and all things Oregon and painting on Thursday night. Cheers. So,
Liquid medicine.
yeah, we're doing Fresca with a little vodka. So I'm going to dry the brush off. I'll just move these guys aside. And what we want to do is we want to mix a little white with some of this Bahama Blue. You don't need a lot. And if you want a darker blue sky, you don't have to mix the white in there. And now what we want to do is really emphasize, I guess I could move this. We want to emphasize that bowl shape, and then also notice that the waterfall is really off center, because if you look at Multnomah Falls straight on, that's exactly how it looks. I did years of painting where I had them completely lined up and it looked so bad. And so really taking a look at it from like the bottom area where you can view.
There is a pool.
It's off center.
There's a bit of a pool at the bottom of the taller one.
So I'm going to use my biggest brush on the thin side, and I'm going to start maybe 2 inches down from the top. I'm going to dip down kind of dramatically, maybe even more dramatically than I did. Just do a little flat, like 1 inch area for the fall, and then come back up. There you go. It can be exactly like mine, or it can be slightly different. It doesn't matter. It's really easy to adjust too. So once you get it on there, later on you decide, yeah, I really don't like my tree line up there. You can change it up. And yeah, I'm just doing some choppy brush strokes. Every once in a while, I might grab some white to take on this sort of cloudy effect.
On me.
So this would be like a morning time up there. I've seen it like this, where the sun is right up here.
I think that kind of closer to noon, don't you think?
Probably, because thinking about the times I've been up there, it's never been early mornings.
And from
get up there
from
early.
this viewpoint, you're looking due south at it. So
Yeah. The beautiful.
there's a legend to it too.
Tell us the legend, Paul.
So the native tribe of the area were suffering from, I want to say, like a lack of fish catch. I can't imagine they'd have a drought in the Columbia River. And one of the princesses of the tribe was told that in order for them to regain their fish catch, I'm going to verify my story here in a bit.
Please do.
just to
You
make
could
sure.
be lying to everyone right now.
That she was to cast herself from the top of the falls and basically sacrifice herself. And that then she did that, and they say that sometimes you can see her face in the mist.
I've never seen that, but I think that would be really cool.
I'm going to double check my story because I feel like it had to do with drought and water returning to the fall, but
could be.
that doesn't make sense because the Columbia River is like right there, and it's a huge river. So let me look. Keep painting, Jenny.
So you just decide how much blue you want, how much white, how many cloudy features you want in there. Kind of see it there. I've got some very impressionistic clouds.
Okay, so she sacrificed herself to save her people from deadly sickness.
Oh.
The princess, unwilling to see her people suffer, climbed to the top of Multnomah Falls and leaped to her death.
That's sad.
The great spirit in her honor is said to have created the falls, forever cascading like a veil of tears.
Wow.
No, there you go. I knew it was something.
Okay, so now that Paul has given us this sad story, we're going to mix the background rock face color, and it's kind of a grayish blue. If you're using Bahama Blue, you can just mix black with Bahama Blue. It makes an excellent gray. So I'm not even going to wash my brush. Just going to bring some of this over there. But if you're using regular blue and made your own turquoise, mix the black into that. Or if you're just using pale blue, like Paul is, let's show your sky.
Oh,
So
clouds.
Here we go. Yeah, he always has to do his clouds. So you can use that color too, just light blue. You just want to make a gray that's got a bluish tone to it. And I'm just going to dab some black in there so when I paint it on, it's kind of streaky. So you can see how I sort of have that marbled effect.
Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, let us know if you guys
Let me
are
actually,
finding
I'll go
it's
look
a
on the
little
other computer.
fuzzy. Go ahead and just start coming in.
Our normal computer we use for monitoring is currently set up at our theater space for controlling our light show. So
we'll come right up to the edge here. Don't worry about this top edge. We can have some time to clean that up in a little bit. This painting generally, if you can paint kind of messy, it's good. Paul is usually the one who actually has taught this one. Although all of us at our Van Gogh studio taught it multiple times. In fact...
You know, it looks fuzzy to me.
Okay, so is it something we need to do with the camera?
Yeah, let me...
Okay, give us a minute. Sip on your sips. I'll go ahead and fill in just the top 4 inches or so here. I wonder, is it on like manual focus?
Oh, we can try.
No, I wonder. Yeah, that's really blurry. You're probably not the one.
Well, you just tell me.
Okay, you just turn this because I can do it. There, that's good.
I'm still battling my eye prescription, guys.
Oh, literally can't see.
I can't.
I don't know how you get through life, honestly. So every once in a while, I might pull some of this Bahama Blue in there. Or whatever light blue you're using, white and blue.
You guys should see me when I go golfing now. It's like...
Squint.
No. Where'd it go?
Bad. Maybe you should go back to your eye doctor.
I need to. I actually was thinking about it because driving home in the dark was scary last night.
So I'm kind of letting my brush run out of paint here a little bit. I come down. Before this dries, don't worry about any of these little areas that have white left over in them. But before this dries, I want to come in. You might have to do a quick brush rinse. You don't have to get every last little bit of pigment off there, but you want to get most of it off. And you can take your Bahama Blue or light blue, whatever you got, and just brush it in around where your waterfall is going to be, because what we're trying to convey in the end is the waterfall is going to be putting off a lot of mist. And you're just sort of blending it out into the dark paint. So when we put the fall on top, you've got this light misty area. In fact, I'll show you.
Hey, it's funny. I told the legend of the fall.
And you can bring some of this down in here too.
That was such a good movie. A long time ago. Early Brad Pitt.
Now I'm going to go back to my grayish color, and you can just let your brush kind of run out of paint. I didn't mix the color light enough. There's multiple colors going on this rock face. Let your brush kind of run out of paint as you get into where this middle Bahama Blue area is. I'm going to smooth out some of my choppy brush strokes there. Just a little, because it is a very choppy rock face. In fact, I recommend you Google a picture of Multnomah Falls. It's kind of cool to look at.
You know what? Gosh, I'm sorry, guys.
But
I was going to say something, and I'm like...
The frog came up in your throat.
Yeah, the frog hollow. I forgot what I was going to say.
Okay. So let's just bring this down.
Now I'm like, what was I going to say?
Yeah, but maybe just think and not talk, and it'll come to you.
You're getting very, you're being spicy tonight.
I'm going to do a quick rinse of my brush again, and I need to blend out some of this Bahama Blue. So I'm just going to take a little bit. I just have a tiny bit on the brush. Sort of brush it out into the rags. What we have now is like wet on wet paint, and that can help blend everything together. It's a little easier to do this lighted misty area this way rather than dry brushing fog on later. But if you've done that a few times and you feel comfortable doing it that way, by all means, do it. Try it out. I think I have a little too much water on my brush. Now, one of the things that I like to do with this background rock face is add some other colors to it. It is very wet up there, and everything is covered with moss and lichens and all kinds of things. So you can actually try making a little green with yellow and blue.
Especially like this area, because it's like you're talking, if that back wall is 540 feet or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And its face is due north, there's not direct sunlight that hits that wall.
It's very, very mossy. So you can tap in some green in there, or if this green's really vibrant, you can tone it down with a little of your red. Works really good. And the cool thing here is if you get this on there and you feel like, oh no, I really did too much, the green stands out too much, I don't like it, you can let it dry a bit and then paint some of the gray back over it, but you don't have to completely cover it.
I think green is one of the hardest colors to get right.
Yeah, and this on camera, it doesn't look... Where's our little zoomer device? Oh, it's right over there. Will that work with this?
Yeah.
Okay. On camera, this isn't super... it's not showing up, like, super brilliantly. Do I need to turn this on or anything?
No.
But if I zoom in a bit...
It's not focusing.
Do you have it on, like...
It must be on manual focus.
There we go. It was there. Here we go. You can really see the green in there. Oh, yeah. So you can tuck any bits of green in there. You could even take some just plain blue and put it in there. That's maybe too much. So what I would do in that case is gray back in. And then anything that you feel like, you know, still needs a little paint, like I've got some white speckling, just dab one of your colors up there, whether it's green or gray. I notice Paul does a lot of dry brushing, and I think that's what makes his paintings look more on the rough side, which is good.
Okay.
Test, test. Can you guys hear it? Okay, what was that, Paul?
I think the battery went out.
Oh.
I'll get it.
Okay, sorry, my rambling. You guys didn't hear my rambling. I don't know how far back that happened. It doesn't tell me what time you guys messaged, but what I was saying is that these are very steep because this waterfall down here has been carving it for years and years and years. And kind of like the Grand Canyon, it's just carving down, and I don't know how far down it's going to go. But yeah, these are very steep, and I usually will try to make one side a little bit shorter. Like this one, I ended up making them the same height, but I try not to do that. I want it to look like there's no HOA there. So, let's see. Sorry about the sound. Paul says the battery went out. All right, let's take our biggest brush and let's find the middle of the canvas and come up about an inch from there. We'll just make a marker point. And then I'm going to hover and go all the way across and then drop down a bit. So that I know that these are not starting at the same point. And then just keeping in mind, this is very steep and it's kind of lumpy, bumpy. And right about here, I'm going to go straight down. Feels weird. When you get that waterfall on there, it's all going to work out the way it should. Same thing over here. You're just going to do some little lumpy bumps. Our waterfall's about, I'd say close to 2 inches, maybe 2 1/4 inches wide.
Okay, we should be good.
Yeah, they said they have sound now.
Yeah, but I wanted to make sure it didn't cut out again.
And then all you're going to do is just streak that black in there.
All right.
So hopefully all you guys have been having good weather. I'm going to do a little extra bump right. I noticed Paul's has a lot of bumps. His original, which is the one that was posted.
Why are you talking about my
You're lumpy
bumps?
bumpy. And this feels so dark against that nice light misty background, but it will all work out good. Just get your wet black paint on there rather quickly because we'll want to put some other paint in it while it's still wet and then some when it dries too. And we can restyle the edges of this, especially as we put our bridge in. I had to do that a little bit. This one I feel like I want to bring it over just a little bit more so that I'm making sure that I don't center my upper fall with the lower fall. I painted it that way for years, and it didn't look like bad or anything. It just like there was something with it to me that I always looked at and was like, "There's something off. What is it?" So
I can tell you what it is.
if you accidentally do that, it's not a huge big deal. You can tell me what it is.
Yeah, it's because if you have them in line with each other, it doesn't make sense because you don't have any depth from front to back.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just looks like all of a sudden it cuts.
Oh, got it.
So if you off-center them, then it makes more sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's get some green on here. These are also very, very covered with lots and lots of moss and greenery, lichens, leaves, all kinds of stuff, shrubs. Lots and lots of green. Everything wants to grow on this steep, stark rock. And it's just because of all the moisture up there. So blue, yellow.
No.
Blue, no yellow. If you want to play around, you can throw a little Bahama Blue in there. Just a little, though, because it's going to turn it more minty. I do want to pop in a little red just to fill this down a little bit. What in the world color did I make? When it mixes in here with the black, I think that'll be good. I need a paper towel. Hold on. I accidentally dipped my finger in black paint. So I had to use most of my paper towel.
You know what's interesting to me? Science. No,
Yeah.
that's not what I was going to say. I get all these like
Just streak this green, whatever green you've made, maybe some yellow in there. Okay, go ahead.
I get these like reels and TikToks that are like places you have to visit in Oregon, ranked 10-1 or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always surprised, like so many of them, like this is on the list, of course. Crater Lake's on the list, of course. But Haystack Rock is almost always number 1 on the list.
Interesting.
And I always kind of think like, okay, Haystack Rock's great, but if you drive along the Oregon coast, there's like
A lot of rocks.
dozens of rocks like Haystack Rock, but there's only one Crater Lake.
I would think like Crater Lake would probably rank number 1 out of all of these.
I mean, I've been to almost all, I haven't been to every single thing to see in Oregon, but I've seen the big
We've
ones.
been to those 3, and out of the 3, like Crater Lake is the one that kind of takes your breath away.
It is the only one that I've gone and just been like, whoa.
I just need to stare. It looks so fake because the water is so calm and flat and glassy. What was so your paintings that you wanted to do?
It's Crater Lake or Haystack Rock.
Okay, you guys tell us. You can look them up. Both are very pretty. Amazing. Oregon's pretty cool.
We're pretty lucky, guys.
We are pretty lucky. So I'm just blending some yellow in here. Having yellow on top of black, it does take on sort of a greenish cast. We do spend some time dabbing bits of moss to make it look more natural. Right now, it's just so you don't have to fret too much about how it looks. I will let it dry for a bit before I put anything else on it because the black is really overriding everything. And any color I'm adding is just being sucked up by the black. You can kind of see that. You can see a little bit of the colors I've added in there, but which gives us a great opportunity to paint trees. Yay, everybody's favorite. We all know you love fir trees. But we don't have too many, and a lot of them are done the very simple way with the brush wiggling up and down like we've done before. And I'll show you that again for those who haven't done that method yet. We're going to switch down a brush size. We'll go to our number 8. So if you're using your own brushes, this is a flat brush, and it's about 1/4 inch wide. And I don't pay too much attention to the numbers because I've had number 8s and other brushes that are a completely different size. So yeah, I always go with the inches. It's about 1/4 inch wide and flat. If you only have a round brush, it will work too. Go ahead and dip it in water.
You know what's interesting?
Blot it off.
So this is in the Columbia River Gorge National Monument. And it is the largest, the Columbia River Gorge is the largest national monument.
Let me say something real quick.
Wait, hold on, I'm almost done.
I'm just getting people going. So just mix your same color that you have up here, that kind of gray, which was, I mixed turquoise and black. Okay, go ahead.
Nope, you lost the moment.
Shut up. You're so pathetic.
The Columbia River Gorge is the largest national monument in the United States that's not a national park.
Wow. Okay.
Because it's 80 miles long.
I'm just touching it up here on the exact shade. Trying to come as close as I can. And paint dries a little bit darker, so if you get some of this on here and it seems really light. Darker, I just noticed some areas, special areas I needed to touch up. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I use the vertical thin edge of this brush, and I'm just going to come through. You might mix a drop of water with your paint, not so it's watery, but just make it just a little bit more fluid. And you're just going to jiggle your brush like little scrub grass, but it's really fir trees that are way up there where you're not necessarily little tree boughs with these. In fact, I'll zoom in and
Yeah, well, then it focuses every time you move your hand through, and then you complain about it doing that.
okay, so you can do little stands of trees. You don't have to do them all the way across. Skip an area. Some people really get the hang of this and like doing it a lot. Other people don't love it and struggle. It's something that's worth practicing. And here's what I'm doing. I'm just sort of brushing down, especially if your color isn't 100% help. And maybe I'll put a little. One place you don't want to put a tree. This little 1-inch area where the waterfall is going to be. So you can come right up to it. So I'll tell you guys, I had to, I think the most nerve-wracking time teaching this painting, version of this, it was almost identical, is in 2012.
That just reminded me what I was going to think of earlier.
Maybe 13. We had one of our big local news channels contact us, and they wanted to come out and have their weather guy
Come on. He's more than just the weather guy.
Yeah, he does like weather and special fun things. He's a really fun person. They wanted to have him do a paint class with me. Step by step, I taught him this painting live on TV in front of, I don't know what it was, a huge number, like 50,000 people or something, 50,000 viewers. Our business really exploded after that. But it was a little nerve-wracking to teach this live. But it went really well, and he did great. And then he ended up coming to a bunch of classes after that. He caught the addiction, so he brought like his wife and kids. It was really funny.
We were also on that show, Little People, Big World.
Yeah, we were. Paul got to teach art class on there. We've had our little 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah. I still get the occasional person who's like, I was watching a rerun of Little People, Big World, and I
forgot
saw
you
you.
were on that. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to paint some actual, although this is optional, some actual fir trees up there. So those are these taller ones that you see that actually have like the branches and tree boughs. And I'm going to switch down to my smallest brush, so it's just this little round brush. This time you definitely will want some water mixed into your paint, and I actually need to try and make that color again. Darn it! Didn't make quite enough. And I'll add some water.
Sorry.
Jeez, you're just gross tonight.
I am gross. I'm like a toddler with a cold.
And I've got a glob of paint on my brush just from mixing, so I do want to wipe that off and then redip the tip of the bristles in. Let's start in an insignificant area. I don't know if there is any insignificant areas on this painting. But like, I'll just take one of these trees and just extend it up real light pressure so you get a little tree trunk. Paul does his trees without doing the tree trunk first. If you like doing it that way, then feel free to do that. And at the top, I just kind of put this little, like an arrow pointed upward.
I don't always do them that way.
And I always tell people we're just painting a stack of mustaches.
Yeah, but that's got like, are they Fu Manchus? Are they handlebars?
Like here would be an example. It's like there's mustache number 1. There's shaggy mustache number 2. Shaggy mustache number 3. And you just like keep going, and you can leave some trunk showing if you want. But most of these I think I brought all the way down to the ground because really we're just kind of seeing over the top of the ridge, and so you're not necessarily seeing the big tall Doug fir, the big trunk showing. But looking at photos and driving through here, all of these trees up here are terrible looking. They have been so wind blasted because
it's very windy.
It's so windy up there, and there's like if you paint really ugly bare trees on yours, it's going to match what it looks like in person.
Windsurfing was invented
in the Columbia River.
Literally like maybe 30 miles
So
from
if you're facing the waterfall, if you're facing Multnomah Falls, and you just turn around 180 degrees, the Columbia River is right behind you. It is windy. The higher up in elevation you get.
Nothing to block it.
You know, one painting that you did of up there that I always really loved was your Crown Point painting.
Yeah.
That's one we could teach sometime. Pretty, like it could be. But do make some that are kind of short. Like I just made a little short, squatty one. It's maybe over the hill. And decide whether or not you absolutely hate doing this, and you're done. Stop, and nobody's gonna fault you. I don't do too many. I don't do too many here. But I do want to get at least one or two over here. I have 3 on the original, but so here's how Paul does them a lot of times. He just does the tree boughs without a trunk to support.
I do not subscribe to the mustache concept. I will just throw that out there.
I just find that I feel like it's maybe easier to teach people when they have something to attach them to. But
Yeah.
it could just be that's how I feel, like how I try to put myself in.
Oh, I'm just talking about the shape.
I'm learning how to paint.
I'm talking about the shape of the mustache. I go more just pretty horizontal. What I was going to say before that I remembered was this painting has a story in that I developed it was one of my
spots.
First paintings I did in probably 2011. And then taught it to one of our teachers.
Who taught it to another
who
teacher.
Taught it to another teacher, who taught it to another teacher, who taught it to another teacher.
And
it was
the
actually
sweet spot. I'm focusing, sorry.
And
that looks good.
It got to a point where
it doesn't. There we go.
I think it was during that Andy Carson program where it came in and I was like, wait a minute. What happened to this painting?
It's like we compared it to the game of telephone.
It was totally
you
like
whisper something in someone's ear, it goes around the circle, and it comes out at the end completely different. So that's how this painting ended up. You're supposed to be reading the chats, Paul.
I'm trying. I can't read them.
Our weather has been up and down. That's Marlene. Sunny here the last few days. That's Faith. What year were you on Little People Big World? I watched that. It would have been 2017, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, and it was so it was a dating episode when
it
she
was like her first
date with the guy that she ended up marrying.
Yeah, her first. No, it wasn't a date because it was like a singles night, and it was a where it was like her first time out after separating from Matt.
Yeah, so if you look up that episode, you can probably Google Little People Big World Vine Go episode maybe, or Sip and Paint episode. That might help you find it. And Paul teaches them all like a double canvas painting where one date paints one half and the other one paints the other half. And Paul looks very different. He's a lot heavier, about 50 pounds heavier, and very big brown beard.
Yeah, slick back hair. Kind of in keeping. It was kind of funny because I think that when we did it, the directors and stuff are used to giving a lot of guidance, and they just were like, well, "This guy's all right. We're just gonna let him cook."
We did have to kind of rush through because the painting they chose is a little more difficult. So there was some stuff you had to cut out. I remember. It was a little nerve-wracking.
It was really obnoxious to teach.
Very.
Because there were a lot of people that were like, I'm on camera. I'm going to be a smartass.
Yeah, there were. You had the class clown type of people.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get some good greenery on here. And let's see here. I'm going to mix the blue and yellow. And I'm going to mix more yellow into it, so I have a pretty yellowy green, because going over the top of the black, it'll be dulled down a bit. But I'm also going to pop in a little red, tone things down. Now, if you have yellow ochre, that's a great color to use with this, too. You could make a green with yellow ochre and blue. And brush-wise, I might start with this brush, scrubbing some green in, but I want to wipe it off because I have way too much paint on there now. So I'm going to wipe off most of it, actually. You can kind of see my brush. It's just kind of dyed. I can't, like, if I lift it up, it goes out of focus. Kind of like the bristles are dyed with the color rather than having a lot of color on there. Now I wiped it off too much.
Yeah, it was in 2017.
Yeah. Had a secondary space that was attached to our main space, but kind of like a sort of a speakeasy vibe, and it was a smaller space. It was designed for smaller classes, and that's where they ended up. Greta and I just kind of stood around in the background, keeping things under control. Now remember, you can streak this color down in here because there's moss everywhere. Now what I'm doing right now is not detail stuff. It's just color. I'm just interested in getting the color on. Detail stuff will be done with a smaller brush. Are you looking up what episode is in?
Yeah.
That was a really neat time. Our business was doing really well. Pre-COVID, those were the days I look back on and like, loved it then. We'll get back there though. We've talked about reopening. But we do like doing we both love teaching online like this. It's just we kind of wish we had a little bit bigger following, but it just requires a lot of marketing that we aren't really super in tune with. Art part. Okay. Yay! Let's get some good stuff going on here. I want to make kind of an orangey brown color. So if you have like raw umber or burnt umber, that would be a great color to just squirt right on your palette. I am going to do it without though. So I'm going to make orange by mixing yellow and whatever red or pink you have. I have Phthalo Red. You just want to make an orange color. And let's see what that looks like if I streak that right in there. Actually, that's great. That's great. It's not, because I have a little paint on my brush, not a lot. It's not going on like pumpkin orange or anything. And it's on top of black. Bring that up, kind of tap it around in here, but I always have very little paint on the brush. We're painting rough style like Paul does. And this will just give some sort of golden brown areas in here. Let's see what it would look like. Every time you mix your color, you want to wipe your brush off. Quite a bit, more than you would think. Let's see what it looks like if I add a little up here. That's kind of nice. Just as kind of a tint. It's not a... you can see how it's going on. It's dry brushed on. You can hear my brush scratching. That's what you want. That means I have not a huge amount of paint on there. It's not gliding, it's scratching. Yeah, you can see that. Do you have another landmass that goes in there? Quite yet. And like the other stuff, if you feel like, oh, I went too far, it's way too orange, you can always come back in with like a little black. Just a little at a time though. Brush it in from the bottom edge and work your way up. So this rock piece looks really funny right now because it's just like this giant chunk of like salt or something. It'll all tie in together when you put your waterfalls on. So let's paint the lower darker landmass down there. I say darker because we're going to paint it on with black at first, and then we actually put the moss and stuff on top. So that way we don't have just this big flat area that doesn't make sense. There's a lot more rocks and things, and outcroppings. I'm going to use my biggest brush again in black. And I'll probably come close to halfway up here. Sort of lumpy bump my way down. Nice big rock chunk. So in the 90s, it was actually right before Paul and I got married. There was a couple that got married up there. And it made the news because they were standing in front of the lower waterfall, in front of the pool that comes out from it. And a giant chunk of rock that was the size of like a
school bus,
suburban, or
a school bus. Yeah. Or no, I think you're right, suburban. Fell
off of, I think it was one of these lower areas. No, was it?
It's up high.
Yeah, and it landed right in that pool. I used to laugh and say, what if it happened during the part where the priest says, if there's anyone who's opposed to this marriage, speak now or forever hold your peace. The rock.
I am God. Behold.
You shall not marry. These are the fun stories I tell when I teach live classes too. I can never forget that one. Okay, let's see. What do I want to do? Let's get the upper falls. Let's get the upper falls in.
Oh, I thought you said Epsom salts.
Let's get the Epsom salts in. Story times. Clean your big brush really good. It's okay if it's got like a little gray in it or something, but we want to clean it off as good as you can. Change your water if you want, but you don't have to. And
change your water if you want to.
We're going to use white, and honestly, the fall is about the width of this brush, so you could technically, we've done this when we've taught this before, just put a little white on your brush, not a huge amount, and drag it down and let your brush run out of paint. I didn't do mine this way, so let's have a look. Oops. So you can see how it's kind of streaky. Everything is definitely very vertical, so you want to, if it helps, you can kind of parallel the side of your canvas so you don't end up with one that goes out this way. That's super common. I've seen it so many times. So as you go, take your time and parallel the side of your canvas. And we're going to start with just a small amount of white. And right up here, just use the thin edge of your brush and just do a little trickle. Remember, you can parallel the side of this. It doesn't have to be 100% straight because
it's windy.
It doesn't fall. It's exactly straight. It's windy, but it's not going to, like, you want to just make sure you're not, like, angling it way out here.
There are times, and I've seen it, you've seen it, Jenny, where it is so windy up there that the water actually doesn't get all the way down.
Yeah.
It starts to just becomes mist and blows.
Yeah. So I'm just going to light amount of paint on here because you can always add more. It's harder to take away. At the top, you can do whatever you can to make it the white go all the way to the top. Don't worry if you accidentally overlap your rock here. We're going to bring moss and stuff in there, so it will work totally fine. So this is actually about how much I want to do. You can have some patches in there where it's really opaque white and then others where maybe you see through, like here. This is one of those days where it's sort of droughty and there's not a huge rush of falls. Other times are different. The lower fall is easier. You do want to drop down so that, you know, it's not right at the edge here. It does come down a bit. And I just go straight across like so. And then you can brush down from that. And some of you guys have probably gotten pretty good at painting waterfalls. I know we did one in Paul's last painting. You can turn your brush and use the thin edge. Other things you can do is kind of make the occasional little one that trickles off to the side. Not super curly. Oops. Just sort of wavy. That reminds me, when we walk our dogs.
I was just thinking of that too.
When we walk our dogs at night, there is somebody owns a dog that's at a house that we walk past, and sometimes it's outside, and it sounds exactly like Curly from the Three Stooges. When it barks, it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. We can't help it. We just bust out laughing. Sometimes the owner's outside with the dog too, and we're just like, oh my gosh. Sometime we're gonna have to tell the guy, like, we just laugh because your dog sounds like the Three Stooges.
And our kids get it because Jenny's mom has always been devoted to having them watch the Three Stooges whenever they go over.
My mom loves black and white things, and so like my son spends the night at my parents' house. Oh, I'd say almost once a month.
About 6 weeks, every 6 weeks, I'd say.
Yeah, and they always watch Abbott Costello or the Three Stooges or just old black and white things because my mom just discovered that my son laughs so hard at those, and she loves them, so she's going to take advantage of that.
On VHS.
So I try to just make sure that this is straight across. I'm using my number 8 brush now. You can see. Are you paying attention to the chats?
I'm trying to.
Oh, that's Daniel checking in to say I'm still at work, so I won't be able to be a pest in the chat for a while. Faith, I know I don't make it to all the lives, but I always watch the recordings. You guys saved me during COVID. I'm in healthcare, and you and Paul gave me something else to think about and learn. Oh, that makes me so happy. And thank you for working in your field. That's a hard field. I just talked to a nurse for a long time yesterday. She's young. Gosh, she must only be like mid-20s, and she's just fresh out of 4 years of school, and she is a ER nurse and is just like on her 2-week
break.
time. I was getting a pedicure with a friend, and she was sitting next to me, and we just struck up a conversation because I talked to everybody, and I thought that was so cool. But it's not the easiest thing. She said it's pretty hard. She works is this crazy schedule, like a whole bunch of 7 12-hour days or something, and then she gets like a whole bunch of days off.
Wow.
But yes, there's a nurse shortage.
Well, your cousin works as a nurse in ER.
Yep. So on this, yeah, she does. She's a trauma nurse. So on this painting, my lower waterfall's a little bit shorter than it is on this painting, just a bit. And that's kind of how it works out because it's a whole new painting.
It's only 69 feet tall compared to 520 feet.
It gives it this massive height. And I think right now actually is a great time to get the bridge on, because that way when we paint the moss in and the trees and all that stuff, it's the bridge can be framed in a little better rather than like getting all the moss in and then painting the bridge on and then having to go back and cover up where it goes into the rock.
Get your bridge on.
But we want to make kind of a, sort of a medium gray. And I think I'll use black and white this time rather than this turquoise and white, because I want it to stand out just a bit over that. So I'm going to see, I'll do a little swatch and see if I need to make this darker. Yeah, it needs to be darker. I'm making a charcoal gray. This is the better color to use for mine. And brush-wise, because we're painting a big arch first, you might find using your smallest brush is the way to go for you. But let's keep this little number 8 brush handy. We want that flat brush to help us out in a bit. And I just pick where I want this to start. So right about here is good for me. And I'm just painting kind of a big rainbow shape. And trying to make it somewhat even. You can kind of falsify it a little bit because maybe there's a tree or a rock that covers it, so your arch is, you're only seeing part of it. The perfectionist in me doesn't like architecture. I'd rather do this painting without the bridge. If you would rather do it without the bridge, feel free to leave it off. It can be Multnomah Falls before the white people came in and changed it. So I'm just going to make a parallel line. So it has a little more support. Now, you guys know we did this last time with Paul's umbrellas on a bridge.
Wow, we really did kind of.
Yeah, very similar. Just filling this little channel in. My bridge always ends up way too neat for my liking, but I've just accepted that's how I paint. And I might mix a little water with my gray color. Take your time. I'm just going to take a sip because I know sometimes I paint kind of fast and I don't want you guys to always have to be pausing it. I'm teaching this class live. It's either tomorrow night or Saturday night. I need to look. Got a full house, 16 people. It is the maximum amount of people we can stuff in the little room that they put us in at the art center.
It's pretty small.
And a lot of people I know are coming, like the Middletons will be there and the Bowles.
Woo. Sorry about that. That was my shoe.
But this one can be a little complicated to teach in person just because there's a lot of anxiety over the bridge. I'll just say that. Okay, but it is pretty simple in shape. Now what I want to do is I'll start in the middle. I'm using the thin edge of my brush, and I'm just going to go straight over one side and then the other. We've got this span. So this is the platform where the people will walk, and we're going to add a railing above that. And just do it as best as you can. Don't worry about bringing that into your rock face because our moss that we put on is going to cover it. Let me zoom in. Forgetting I have this wonderful technology. I just have to. Here I am. That looks pretty focused. Okay, so now right above there, about an inch above, we're going to do a parallel line. Woo. Take your time. And you can choose if you want to use your little brush or the thin edge of this one, or I haven't used my number 4. It's feeling lonely, so I'll go ahead and use it. So this one's about 1/8 of an inch wide and flat. Same color, thin edge of the brush, and basically we're going to turn these 2 parallel lines into what looks like a ladder on its side. The railing. And I just try to evenly space these. I've done them where they're really close together and there's a lot of them, and I've done them where they're, right now it's probably a little over 1/4 inch apart. Let me grab my phone. See if I can pull up a picture of the Multnomah Falls. It's pretty decorative, and I realized I was botching it for so many years. Because I simplified it. I did just this. Oh, this light just went out. You want to fix it? Oh, came back on. What, are we have a ghost in here?
Cheap lights. No, it's not the lights, it's the power source.
Okay.
It's got too much stuff plugged into it.
So anyway, for years I taught it just this way, with the arch and the railing. And then I really looked at it. Because we played the game of telephone, I guess. I really looked at it, and this is what it looks like. Oop, there we go. Okay. Got like bigger railings underneath or right above that arch. So that's what we're going to do right now. Same brush, like I'm using my number 4. Same color. And I try to I don't want them to be in line with the upper railing, so I'm going to do one right here. And they're thicker.
Make sure you stay vertical with these.
Yeah, that's a common thing. It can be really easy to start leaning them some way that they shouldn't go.
Well, people tend to go with the under arch.
Mm-hmm. Just parallel the side of your canvas. Yeah, in the live classes of this painting, I've usually had to go around and do some emotional pep talks.
You got this.
Or even fix someone's bridge when they think it's really botched and ruined. I don't think I've ever had anyone paint it out. Yeah, you can go through and you can make these railings a little bit thicker if you want.
For some reason, I have the theme song from Reading Rainbow stuck in my head.
Reading Rainbow.
It's because you said something about painting the rainbow for the arch.
I can go anywhere. Was that a national show?
Yeah.
Yeah. LeVar Burton's, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was kind of like...
I loved that show. It was great.
It was kind of like right on the fringe of our time. You know what I mean?
We were a little too old for it to be cool.
But we still loved it anyway. I mean, it's not like me watching Teletubbies when we were 20 and we didn't have kids.
Freak.
Hey,
Okay,
be careful. That was a wonderful show to watch.
So we will put some highlights on this after it dries. For now, we've got it exactly as we need it. It's off center, but it doesn't have to be centered, you know. You're standing in a different part down looking at the bridge, and you're not necessarily seeing the whole center perfect. alignment.
It'd
of
be
the whole
pretty
thing.
rare for you to actually be able to see this perfectly centered.
Yeah. So we have a bridge on there. It looks pretty cool. And now we are going to start making this landscape look natural and much better. We don't have to do anything else up in here outside of later on. We'll put the sun and the sunburst on, which is 100,000% optional. Sunburst can scare people a lot.
I would actually say,
leave it off.
for the most part, unless you're really confident in your ability to come back and touch it up,
Yeah.
it's one of the hardest things, I think, to get right.
I'll show you how to do it. It just is very little paint. I think that's the hardest part to really convey to people.
And it's like a fine line between just the right amount and too much.
Yeah, and keeping your lines nice and straight as they ray out. But we'll get there. We'll cross that bridge. Let's get some greens going. We want a blue green, a yellow green, natural green. So I'm going to mix the blue and yellow. I'll start with this one. It's kind of just your basic grass green. And I'm just going to dab along the edge here. Covering up the areas of the bridge. I have a little bit too much paint on my brush. It's a very vivid green. I want to tone that down with some red.
Neighbor's back.
Oh.
You guys probably can't hear that, though.
So there, I toned my green down a little bit with some red. And yeah, that's better. It's okay to have some bits of the really Kelly green in there. But one thing you want to do is occasionally brush this down a bit. And we are going to put a yellow green in here, so it will stand out more than it does now. Right now, this is tone-wise, it's not really standing out a ton. We want to keep our dabs along the edge here and then just sort of pull down once in a while. It does tend to make the top ridge of our cliff edge here sort of disappear. That's going to be brought back with some really bright yellowy highlights. But I think the thing I would try to avoid here is, I'll just show you what I would avoid with a lighter color. So what I have found is painters like to just do this. And so you end up with just everything sort of outlined. But what you want to do instead of that is, this is great, coming along the edge is great, but you want to pull down, and so that you don't have a perfectly even thickness line here. So maybe I'm using a lighter color just to show you, but we are going to add some of this color in a bit. So yeah, just so you have an uneven edge. It looks a lot more natural. Kelly green in there. And while I'm at it, let's get some down here too. Green fluff. That's what we're doing. Green fluff.
I would say this is probably a less is more.
Less is more for sure. So I don't have a lot of paint on my brush. It's a little bit of a sensory nightmare for me. I like having more. I don't always want to feel the brush dragging. So what we're doing is just base stuff, and as we come back in and we bring in some of the yellow, gold, and orange, it's going to look much better. But we got to get through this base layer stuff first. There's green all along the edge here. The water splatters out, and the moss rhizomes. I assume they're rhizomes, right? Is that what moss grows from? They're like, yeah.
No, I don't. They don't grow from rhizomes.
Huh.
But
I guess rhizomes, aren't those like water-based?
they can be, but they're just like a root.
Huh.
Like water lilies grow from a rhizome.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. We've got little plants growing everywhere. I think I mentioned last time we were planting herbs and stuff. I might have mentioned that last live stream. And now they're all popping through the dirt. It's so cool. I love it. I'm gonna wash this brush off. Now I really want to have that yellowy kind of avocado green. So that would be a lot of yellow, just a very small amount of blue. And pop it on there and see, is that way too vivid? That's pretty vivid. I feel like I will want some parts that are vivid, but I'm going to mix a little of my red in there. Or if you've got yellow ochre, you can tone it down with some yellow ochre. So I don't want it to be red. I just want it to be toned down. It's almost kind of brownish. Not a huge difference, actually. But wipe a lot of the paint off your brush and come along the edge. So we've got our sunlight right up here, and it's going to be casting sun rays down, which is going to highlight edges of this moss and grass. Speckle it down in here so that you're not just doing that line like I talked about earlier. That sounded like you were going the Californians. What were we talking about? You need to check the chats. You're just focusing 100% on your painting.
I am just focusing on staying awake.
You're being a very bad chat checker. So yeah, I like to bring some of this fuzziness up beyond the actual black hillsides we painted in earlier.
Daniel, are you talking about the SNL skit? Californians. You know which one that is, Jenny?
Yeah, August and Nathan were talking about it the other night. Yeah, you were there too.
Yeah.
The blonde.
Fred Armiston.
So funny.
I don't know if we've ever talked about it, but Portlandia was such a genius show.
I'm going to bring some, I can almost create another little ledge here just by packing some mossy green stuff on here.
You sound like you've been watching tattoo videos.
Packing?
You gotta pack some more color in here.
Just so that I'm not falling into the trap of everything right on the edge.
Kind of like doing clouds.
Yeah, exactly. And if you look at the picture, let's pull that picture up again. Visit page. Okay. Look at all the greenery there. Look at all that moss. It is so much. So don't feel bad about bringing it down. Let me look at that again. Did I get my waterfall right? Yes. But look at that straight, how it's like we've got that real steep drop off there. We did it, gang. Actually, if I had a number 12 brush right here, that would be perfect. Are you using your biggest brush?
Yeah.
You have a number 12? Is that what you're like? I can go get. I think they're all at Stars, actually. All right. We are going to bring some brighter yellow on the edges there. Just keep speckling this in here as you want it. Speaking of tattoos, I don't know if we mentioned that Greta got accepted into tattoo school. Went and did an interview. I'm going to bring some brighter green.
Well, yeah, they hadn't done the interview yet because that was just last week.
Yeah. And got accepted immediately. So
it was funny when they called to schedule the interview. They panicked so much they didn't answer in time, and they had to call back.
Oh, Greta.
It was kind of funny. It was cute, actually.
This is really yellow compared to what I have above, and that's okay. The sun will kick through here and highlight this too. And the other thing too is you can bring some green back in at any time.
That was the thing that had changed from the original. For some reason, the sun became yellow. And it was like this big egg yolk
I
in
think
the
I
sky.
did that.
It wasn't you. It was somebody else. I think it was. I'm not going to name names.
Don't name names. I
But
think it was me.
I think no, it wasn't you. I think I know who it was.
Well, I originally did put yellow, but it was blended into Bahama Blue. But I did notice that it became separated. To where you're right, it was like a big egg yolk in the sky.
Big egg yolk in the sky.
I can fly twice as high. Oh, I like this side. Doing the things I needed to do. Thank you, Marlene. Yeah, we're all pretty excited to see Greta's art career do its own thing, because Greta does not want to paint because Paul and I paint, and Greta can't do anything that Mom and Dad do.
I'm excited to get some fresh ink.
Yeah, she might press extra hard on you.
She probably will.
Mm-hmm.
They probably will. I've noticed that there is a part of Greta that likes to inflict pain.
Oh, definitely.
I got a sliver. She's like, let me get my pocket knife. Like, no, there's no needle. It's like we're going deep.
So I've got a lot of green on my brush right now, and I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to dip it right in yellow. So yeah, I've got my little puddle yellow. You guys see my very messy palette. I'm not a clean painter with my palette. Clean painter on the canvas for the most part, but my palettes always look terrible. But I'm just bringing bits of yellow along the edge, and make sure you do some back a little further too, so you're not having it outlined with yellow. A great highlight. I love this. Love the way this is looking, actually. I like it better than the one I did earlier today. Somebody's taking an airplane out. I can hear it at the airport.
Weather's good.
Yeah. Get some bits of that bright yellow down in here too. Maybe they're little buttercups. That's something that grows in Oregon a lot. And Creeping Jenny is another.
Creeping Jenny's not native to Oregon.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Okay, yeah, we wouldn't see Creeping Jenny up here. But Creeping Jenny is greenery. It's kind of like a periwinkle, but with yellow flowers.
It's interesting. So Jenny keeps talking about the moss, and I don't know if you guys remember, but about a decade ago, there was massive forest fire that ripped through the gorge.
That was in like 2015.
Yeah, a decade ago.
Oh, okay. I missed the part where you said a decade ago.
Yeah, so like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And
started by a 15-year-old kid.
Just being a snot, really. I mean, he's just
playing with fireworks.
But
throwing him off the edge of a dry area, so it was stupidity.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to get into.
You've ruined the mood. I'm leaving.
I don't want to get into all that. You know,
he's
just a kid too, so I kind of get it, but.
Yeah, I did feel a little bit bad because there were death threats and.
Yeah. Anyway, one of the things that was really interesting.
Only a tiny bit bad, like a hair fraction. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Jeez. Many of the hiking trails through the gorge ended up getting closed down because they relied so heavily, the paths and the rock work and stuff that keep retaining walls and things like that in place, relied so heavily on the moss and the root structure of the moss that it's almost like the mortar that keeps it together. Yeah. And they had to wait a few years to reopen them so that the moss reestablished itself. But moss is an interesting thing. If I remember correctly, it's actually like a single cell organism. And it's it doesn't die. Like you can dry it out and rehydrate it, and it'll come back to life.
Yeah. Yeah, it was crazy because we were teaching. I was telling you guys I was a art. Oh, there's Greta. There was a.
Okay, I lied. Moss is not a single cell organism.
Okay. I was saying how as an artist in residence up there in the gorge, and there was a class I was teaching outside, and the fire was still going.
Like
in
we
the
were
gorge.
literally watching like the helicopters
Yeah.
dipping water
The
out of the
helicopter
river.
was scooping water out of the Columbia River and then going up and dumping it up into the woods. It was so crazy. It's the craziest thing ever. Okay,
Well, maybe not ever,
let's
but maybe that we've seen.
yeah, that's what I meant. Let's highlight our bridge. I'm going to zoom back in.
But you never saw Bigfoot, so that's a different animal.
I'm going to take my littlest brush, and you can use either white or light gray. I'm leaning towards light gray for this, so let me get my palette over here. We just want a shade that's lighter than your bridge base so that it's a highlight. And wipe your brush off, redip the tip of the bristles, and we'll come along the top edge of this railing. It doesn't have to be a solid line. You can do a little broken up line. And I'll come along the top edge of the base where the people will walk.
Face in your face, not an 8-track.
The arch
mix.
is a great place to have that. And you can even highlight the edges of some of these railings. Really want to play it up, and there's a lot you can do.
You ever see those like TikToks and reels where they're like, they walk around, it's like somebody at a business or school or something walks around and asks all the teachers and students, it's like, I saw one yesterday, I was like, what did Warren G and Nate Dogg have to do?
What does it even mean?
Okay, so Warren G and Nate Dogg, rappers, right?
Yeah.
What did they have to do?
Rap?
Regulate!
So there, actually, let me zoom in a little further so you can kind of see. There's my highlights. You can see the broken up lines. I haven't gone through and done a perfectly solid line. You could. Let's see the originals. Very similar that way. The original, I started with the bridge a little bit lighter in color, so I came in with black. In fact, I could do that. So you can do highlights and lowlights. So a low light here would be littlest brush and a little black. And just coming, I have water on my brush. Just coming under here.
I'm working on my sun rays in honor of Easter coming up on Sunday.
Okay. It's the rain.
No, but you know.
There we go. Yeah. I think the zoom is, maybe I accidentally turned it on to autofocus.
Maybe you did.
It's doing better. I'm not having to like manually focus it anymore.
Maybe LeVar Burton came and saved the day.
Blessed by LeVar Burton. Okay, it's 6:51. What do we have left to do? We need to do the trees and add some pink and the sun ray. So we want to get those trees out of the way and get them drying before we attempt the sun ray, because the sun rays can overlap the trees a bit. These trees are deciduous.
Because they decide to lose their leaves.
And I've done them in pink before, like Japanese maples. Oh, here's a great picture of the falls frozen over. The color looks kind of weird up there. Sepia tone, but in my phone it's just truly black and white. But gorgeous. Look at that. So pretty. I've seen it look just like that.
I wonder if Bierstadt did a painting of Multnomah Falls. I think he did. He did.
Okay. Yeah, you did a replica of it.
Yeah.
So here's a more up close of the bridge. You can see the architecture there. I was seeing if there's one that shows trees. Here's the upper trees. I was telling you how they're kind of blown apart looking. Look at that one. Because of the wind up
All
there.
right, here we go. Here's Albert Bierstadt.
That is gorgeous. Oh my gosh, I love that.
If you guys want to go a deep dive, there's a few wonderful, like if you look up just about any artist and you type in their name, go into like your web browser and you go like I'm going to just say albertbierstadt.org. There usually are there's usually a website that's dedicated to showing all of their artwork. Oops, I spelled it wrong.
And here's a picture. This one I was looking at with the trees. Look, there's like an extra trickle of some other fall up there. So this must have been it. And this is really
There is
thick.
another one to the right.
So this was a day that it was gushy. But I wanted to show what my original point was, how there's deciduous trees up there. And that's what we're going to paint. So we want to make the trunks pretty dark. You can use solid black. I ended up having to on the one I painted, the other original, because I made them kind of a grayish at first and they just didn't stand out against the background. I feel like my background's maybe a tiny bit lighter here. I'll use my number 4 brush.
So I'm just going to show you guys real quick. Pretty much any famous artist, you just type in their first name and last name, nothing in between them, and then type .org, and there's usually a website that's dedicated to showing all of their paintings. So I just went to albertbierstadt.org.
Is that a ram? Did he do a painting?
Oh, he did all kinds of stuff. So there's lots of artists that you can do that for, and it's a really cool way to do a deep dive on somebody if you want to find out more about the work they do.
Cool.
Or did, I should say.
So I'm making a soft black. I'm just mixing phthalo red and black, but you could mix all kinds of colors. Maybe I'll throw a little yellow in there, and we'll see how this stands out. So it ends up being more of a dark brown, because I'm not a fan of using solid black in a lot of different places.
Never.
But then the tree, I've got my bridge on the original is a little higher. I've got room for quite a few trees here, but I'm just going to have it come out, and I like to actually make them lean out a bit towards the fall.
These would probably be alder trees, would be my guess.
Yeah, so I'm just splitting off. All of this I'm painting on right now is going to get covered, but it's going to provide you like a blueprint. So I don't want you to worry too much about how your branches look. You just want to have them there, because we are going to bat on a bunch of paint that completely covers them up. And just for now, just have them go down into the moss. We can ground them in later. And maybe I'll make one that's a little taller here. I always start with kind of a Y shape.
I'm not going to name names, but it starts with D and ends with annual.
What?
I don't know. Just, I'm reading the conversation.
So I'm just, branching off of branches I put on there. Bunch of split ends, because that gives you your places to put the foliage. Maybe add a little water to your paint. Kind of helps you draw lines. One might go up kind of tall. These look way too HOA planned. I'm going to put one right in here to throw everything off. So yeah, your branches can be ugly. I promise you, they're going to be completely covered up. Your trunk will show, but the branches are going to be covered up. And maybe I'll pop one in right here. I like to have it cross over the fall. I think that's such a cool effect. Or at least have the foliage crossover. Yeah, we'll put some shadows under these trees. They've been windblown. They're not going to be gorgeous, perfectly groomed trees. There's nobody up there fixing those up. Look at that branch. That's a great one.
The gorge is a very harsh environment.
It is.
Especially in the wintertime. I mean, in the wintertime, the storms that they get 120 mile an hour winds that are not tornadoes or hurricanes. They're just sustained winds.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously down at that would be more like up on the ridge. But we've been up there at like Crown Point where there's like 85 mile an hour winds and it's just blowing.
You'll blow your sunglasses right off your face.
And it's not like gusts. It's just that's the speed the wind is going. And it's pretty it's pretty amazing actually.
Yeah, it is. Okay, whatever color you were just using to do the trunks, or you can use solid black.
I'm dying here, guys. I'm trying so hard.
Feel free to pause if you're not quite ready to move on to putting some foliage on here. So just keep working. I'll talk to you real quick about how the foliage is done on these. We start with the dark color. So the trees are all going to be in silhouette to start. And then we start adding a bit of green, yellow, and then even eventually some pink that is kind of where the sunlight would be hitting. So the whole tree is not going to be green, but you will see green, the highest intensity of green in the areas where the sunlight would hit. So they are going to be in silhouette at first. And I use the same color I used for the trunks, and I'm using my number 8 brush. And sometimes it's easier for me if I picture this as like a little stalk of broccoli, because that's
chopping broccoli.
that's the shape. Is sometimes I even refer to these as broccoli trees because they're just that rounded, fluffy. I guess broccoli isn't really fluffy, but rounded, sculpted. Maybe sculpted isn't the right word either because these are really windblown. But you know, in the painting world, I mean, you saw Bierstadt's; his were all perfect.
You guys, honestly, if you want to do a deep dive on just an amazing landscape painter, Bierstadt, number 1, Frederick Church, number 2. A good place to start.
So yeah, you see how dense I'm putting them on here? So I'm blotting out all of my branches. Like maybe you can see a little bit in here, but you don't have to. I could bring that foliage all the way down. It's thick like a broccoli. I'm really just liberally blobbing it on here. Technical term. And these can touch each other. There ain't no HOA here. Trees are going to touch each other. They're friends.
Good friends, apparently.
They're hugging. They have to touch each other in order to survive the heavy winds. And you can shape these different ways. Like, I think alder trees kind of go up sort of tall and pointy. So you can have some that are broccoli and some that are different, if you want. But look, no branches. You don't see any of them. I think getting past the mental game of trees is the hardest part for like people who haven't painted a lot. You know, confidence.
You gotta like be like Elsa and Anna.
Let it go.
Just let it go.
Let it GOGH.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last weekend I taught a live class that was a big purple tree right in the center of the campus, and people were so stressed. I felt so bad. They did great and they had a lot of fun, but they're so stressed about how their foliage looks, and it's like, just let it go. Just let it go and dab away. Dab the foliage on, cover up all the branches. They'll stress so hard about painting the branches. And I'll tell them the whole time, don't worry about them. You have an ugly branch, everything's going to be covered up. Don't worry about it, but they'll still stress so hard. And I get it because I try to compare it to, like, if I were to go in and take, let's say, something I'm totally unfamiliar with, like a knitting class, I would be that way too. Like, my knit and purl isn't perfect. But yeah, letting go, one of the hardest parts with painting, but it's so important, and I am still learning to do that. I have an HOA going on here. You can see the OCD on my canvas.
You know, I don't blame people for being OCD. Our society kind of forces us to be that way.
Yeah, from the, young age.
It's unfair, really.
It is very unfair. So while these are still wet, we can come in, clean brush, make some fresh green. And this time we probably don't even have to tone it down with the red, like I have been doing. So think about your sunlight. It's going to be right here. It's going to cast a ray this way. So I'm going to get a lot of green showing up on that side. And then as I get in this way, I might just have a few little pats of green over here. So you are going to end up with a bit of black showing. There's one. Let me zoom in. The black is wet, so it's doing its job by toning down the bright green I'm painting on right now. As this dries, the green will dry a little darker than it shows up right now. Now this side, the highlights will be on the side facing the waterfall and over here.
I need to finish this up. I'm about done.
Almost done. Sometimes I'll even take the green and extend it beyond the black. That's kind of how you get like a nice soft edge. Some of the foliage. It's a nice effect. I've seen a lot of artists do that. And we'll let these dry for a few minutes while we work on grounding them. Oh, have a look. The trees all cast a dark shadow at an angle. So these are going to angle this way, these are going to angle this way. But you want the tree angles to match. They need to parallel each other. And I'm going to use my number 8 brush probably. And they're casting a shadow back, but the shadow is going over this rough foliage. So you need your shadow to not be like a straight line. It needs to be foliage. So you're going to dab it back in here. Go right up to the trunk. And just, it can kind of stretch out and sort of pull it outward like the tree is casting a little shadow. That's all I'm going to do on that one. Again, you're tapping the shadow in. I'd start with just a little paint on your brush. I almost had too much with this one. You can always go back and darken anything up. And then that just sort of dissipates as you get away from the tree trunk. So a lot of times I'll dip my brush in the black and then I swipe it off somewhere on the palette to knock excess off. By now my brush is out of paint and I'm just sort of swirling what I've got wet on the canvas out, and then it kind of just smokes that out a little bit. Nice, it's a nice effect. Cool, liking that.
Liking on the trees.
Liking it. And these guys are going to do the same thing, but the shadow's going the opposite direction. Run out of paint, I'm just sort of, like I said, kind of smoking it in. I don't know what else I would refer to that. hazing it in.
Whispering.
They look so much better. Just they fit in and don't look like they're just pasted on so much. Yeah, like that. And then you can always come back in if you feel like, oh, my shadow got a little too large, or it's too dark, or it just doesn't look quite right. Like I could come back in with some of Paul's yellow.
Yeah, yellow.
I'd come back in with some greenery or yellowery. Just sort of clean up around.
No, you're just making up words.
Clean up around the edges if needed. Let me zoom back out. You can kind of see the whole. And I want to put in this yellowy color. It can be yellow-green, like avocado green, or you can just use straight yellow. And you want to put some of that on the outer edge of the trees that are facing up where the sun's going to go. So this is an awesome way to really make them stand out. But you do want to leave the dark patches in there, so that's going to give your trees some depth. And remember, you can extend some of these little dabs beyond your black tree base. Create these soft, whimsical edges. Okay, see up close. Yeah, so that was very simple, very fast, easy to do, and it had a pretty big impact. I'm just taking a look here. I'm gonna work on these trees across the fall there, but I was looking here and I feel like I could add maybe a tiny bit of dark green in any of these bigger areas where they're just solid black, like maybe breaking it up with a few little green leaves would probably be okay. I don't even know if it's 100% necessary, but you feel like you have too big of dark patches, you can break it up with a few of the darker green leaves, probably, since it's away from the light source. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Let me get some blue into that. Get darker green.
About to hit the
Yeah,
wall.
so like this is a, zoom in here. This is a patch where it's pretty dark, and I don't want to, I do want to keep some of the dark in there, but I want to come in and break it up with a little green so it doesn't seem like it's just black. And I'll do that here too. Not a lot. This side, speckles. Get some pink on here. If you want to, you do not have to. Pink is a really nice addition, and it can be more orange in tone. So I'll show you like this one here. I had put wet pink on top of wet yellow, so it turns sort of orangey, and that was nice. I've got these, I think of these as like little stands of, there's some kind of flowering shrub there. So like this one might have a lot of flowers on it. And I just tuck them in wherever I want them to be, and I even put some up in the trees. I think up in the trees, you could use pink, but I think if you did more of an orange with the yellow mixed in with the red, that would be really nice. And you can use your number 8 brush, or if you want to make smaller little additions of that color, you can use your number 4. And we'll get the trees first so they can dry, so we can come back, and if you want to, we'll do the sunburst. I will show you how to do it. Let me zoom in again. And first what I'm going to do is scrape off a little of my phthalo red or whatever red you're using. Steal some of Paul's yellow because I am out. Mix that in. To create this sort of golden orangey tone. And my brush has way too much paint, so if I put that on, that's really harsh. That's way too much, and I need it to be softer. So I'm going to find a clean spot on my towel and wipe most of that off, and then come in and just dab little bits of that color to warm things up. I really do love that look. Got some black mixed in here now. And I'm not adding a ton, but I'll also show you what it would look like to add some pink. There, that's mostly kind of that orangey color. Let's see what it would look like if I put pink, just some white mixed in. White's drying up. I hardly used white on this. You decide the level of pink that you want, but again, because we've got a lot on the brush, you don't want to go right to your canvas with it. You want to wipe it off as much as you can. And start with a very small amount. And then add more if you want. That's nice. I like that. I'm a big color fan. This is expressionism. We're going to... Ooh, never mind. I got too much in there. We're going to express ourselves with color.
Express yourself.
With color.
Oh, that sounded bad.
Optional. You can leave that off. But I'm kind of loving it a little bit. I love pink and yellow together. There. What is it? Are they flowers? No. Are they pink leaves? They're lighting variations. Like, this is like expressionism. You're adding colors where colors maybe don't exist, but it's just kind of just being very expressive with the trees. And I'm going to make this into a little pink flowering shrub.
I'm done.
You've said that more than once.
No, I said I'm close to done.
Okay.
I'm like physically can't do more.
So yeah, I like the occasional where it looks like there's just some kind of shrub that grows pink flowers. But then I also like just tucking in like a little bit. Like maybe there's actually a whole different variety of flower here. Maybe I'll make that a little bit darker pink just to show that it's different. Got some down here. Maybe this one spread over here. A fun color. And remember, once it dries, if you decide, oh, I did way too much pink, like this is almost a little too much. It's pretty dense. But I could go back and just, after it dries, pat some green back over the top there. But I'm really liking the way it looks.
Wait, Daniel, is there a new baby elephant at the zoo? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they had a, yeah, there is one. Okay, so here's the original. Here's the new one, and I feel like definitely a lighter background on the rock face on the new one, and more fun trees. I like those.
City of Portland really gets up and going for their baby elephants.
Yeah. Now the sunburst, the dreaded sunburst. If you're drinking liquid courage, take a big swig right now. I'm going to clean my brush really good. I get to teach this live tomorrow night. Yikes. Maybe I'll leave the sunburst off.
Is it tomorrow night?
I think it is. I'll paint it on for you guys, and then I'm going to paint it back out so that I don't have to teach it live. Just kidding. They'll know. Some people pull up the photos on their phones.
Wait a minute.
Call me out.
Hold on.
Okay, so I have a clean dry brush. And let me zoom in. This is definitely a zoom in thing. I've got wet paint on the trees. Actually, it's pretty dry. It was so thin that I know if I bring the white down in here, it shouldn't drag any color around. And I don't even know if it will come down that far. So what you want to do is you want to dip your brush and pick up just a little bit of white. See how little I have on my brush. And right over here, you can kind of create a sun shape if your background's kind of dark, or you could just sort of dab in kind of bright white area. And then you're going to use the flat side of your brush. Jeez, you are a mess tonight. And you're just going to work from that wet paint patch you put up there. And everything's going to just ray out. So you might have to occasionally, this is what I do. I occasionally will pat some fresh wet paint up here, but not much at all. Drag from that. And so you get these hazy lines. This works best if I had a wider brush, like a 1/2 inch wide brush would be perfect. Kiss the tops of the trees. You can go over some of these rays more than once if you need to. And you can go, like if your sky is kind of dark, you could go up into the sky too if you really like self-punishment like that. Because that's what would happen in nature. You get a like angelic being up here standing at the top of the cliff. It's the Native American woman. She's glowing.
Oh, what was her name?
Yeah, we need to find out her name so we can honor her. Oops. Well, there's a heavy ray. That's okay. And then you'll usually have to go back and touch up the center, what would be the sun part, because it really gets taken away from dragging paint all around. There we go. Is it better with the sunburst? No, I don't think so at all. I don't think that it made it like so much better than if I had just left it without. I don't really see a big ooh and ah factor. Maybe if I'd done it with a little bit bigger brush.
She was just a princess and a maiden. There is
Oh, well, she needs a name.
no name.
Multnomah. Okay, so now I'm going to sign my painting. And you can do that in any color. I happen to choose pink. Boy, that signature is the worst thing about this painting. I needed to add some water with my paint, but I didn't. All right. I like. Let's actually compare the original with this.
Out. Need to zoom out.
There we go. Shorter waterfall.
Is it focused?
Yeah, I think so. Seems to be mostly focused. A little bit shorter waterfall, a little bit lighter background here. I don't know. It kind of either way. Like I feel like this is kind of nice with the little bit darker background, but this turquoise blue really shows up. This to me looks kind of gray. Let's look at Paul's. Paul did his very differently, as usual. This is very aqua colored.
Yeah.
It almost looks like it could be under the ocean, like Atlantis or something. Because I know it's all the greeny blue.
Yeah.
I like it. Nice. Oh, you haven't been reading these.
I have been. That's why I was talking about the elephant.
Oh, okay. You're forgiven. Yeah, so that was fun. It's not the easiest painting in the world. It's not the hardest. It's got trees and architecture, so.
Well, the
Fun times.
architecture kind of like can be easily like mitigated. Like you don't have to get too hardcore on the
No,
architecture.
you can. In fact, you can leave the bridge off and just make it be like Multnomah Falls before white men came through. My trees are a little too.
So I did the regular blue
perfected.
for the sky.
I like your trees. How you don't see a lot of trunk. And
There's a little bit of trunk, and I put a little highlight on the trunks too.
yeah.
One of the things that I
Okay.
one of the things I try to do on a painting like this, though, is to not let foreground trees over dominate.
Thank you guys. Have a good night, Faith. Thanks for joining. I'm glad you're not as scared to try it now.
Yeah, it's not too hard.
Yeah, I do. I like this because these are very. I mean, they're nice, but look at what I did. I made them all the same height. They're on a hill, so this one looks taller, but they're all really the same height. And yours look like they're more over the top of that hill. You've got a lot more texture throughout here. Like
Texture.
I'm trying to find the right word. Like this looks kind of flat, although it's not horribly flat. But yours.
I got a lot more of like probably the difference is I paid a lot more attention to where the actual sun rays were coming through.
Yeah.
And extending them with highlights.
You could make little yellow eyes throughout.
Totally. There's been a lot of, this is Columbia River Gorge is kind of like one of those like Bigfoot kind of hotbeds.
Yes,
so,
it is.
And there's been a lot of interesting videos popping up around on TikToks and the other socials about Bigfoot lately. So maybe.
All right, is our camera charged enough that we can?
Yeah, I think.
Like coughing man. Back.
Let's try it. I'm here. Hi.
Thank you for joining us. And I think I'm just going to check my phone calendar real quick. I think next Thursday is when we'll do your painting, which we didn't ever hear Crater Lake or Haystack. So I think
hit us up in the comments.
I think it's going to be your choice unless someone comes through. What do I have? Oh, wait. Next Thursday, I'm going to be at the bakery. So we'll figure it out. Might be Wednesday. We'll figure it out.
I have my golf round on Wednesday.
Okay, we will figure it out.
I can fly solo on Thursday if I need to.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably be able to pop in right as you start. So, yeah. All right. So we will see you guys. Let's plan on next Thursday.
Let's do it.
And we will see you then.
Yeah, bye everybody.
Happy painting. Bye.